for the kind of students who are here today.
Yes.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and a warm welcome to this new edition of Amritkal Mentor Talk. So Amritkal Mentor Talk is a flagship series that connects students with visionary leaders, thinkers, and change makers. So the idea is to bridge the gap between the academic learning and the urgent questions of our time. And so today's session is also a part of Amritkal Mentors. And also this Amritkal Mentors is an initiative by Mentor Cloud. So that is inspired by the vision of Viksit Bharat by the year of 2047. And we are committed to bringing future-focused, value-driven mentorship to young minds across India. And today we have with us Mr. Rajiv Deshpande. So he is a seasoned technology leader, a respected voice in strategic affairs, civilization studies, and India's evolving role on the global stage. With over 3 decades of experience across organizations such as Mondelez International, Infosys, SAP India, and GyanSync INC, he has led transformative initiatives in R&D and engineering and enterprise solutions. And his role currently at the global solutions owner at SAP, PLM at Mondelez International. So he drives innovation by integrating cutting edge technologies, including the AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science into global products lifecycle management systems. And his work ensures efficiency, sustainability, and value creation across complex business operations. And he also specializes and takes a lot of interest in writing, and he's also speaks about extensively about the geopolitics. Before we started this session, we were discussing that he is also very fluent in Marathi and Sanskrit, apart from the English and Hindi. So I think you have a very nice speaker today. Thank you so much, sir, for joining and taking your time for this session. And I hope all the students here would enjoy your session today. Thank you so much, sir, and over to you.
Thanks, Riddhi, for that introduction. And I'm very happy that we are seeing a good attendance for this topic. And before I start sharing my screen, just a bit about the word Vishwa Guru. So, most of us might have heard this word for the first time in recent years. But this is not a word invented recently, or India as a Vishwaguru or Bharat as a Vishwaguru. This is not a new idea. This was first voiced by Sri Aurobindo more than 100 years ago when he was talking about India's future. And his concept is that we have a cyclic nature of time, in the sense maybe there is a 20,000 year cycle or 50,000 year cycle. He didn't specify how many years, but he said that in this cycle, India has the role to lead the world, right? So there may be ups and downs, but ultimately, every time there is a collapse of the world order, it will be India who will provide the guidance to the world as a Vishwaguru. Now, going back to the quiz question, the first question as to what Vishwaguru means, whether it means that we go back to the ancient principles and ancient knowledge, or whether we become a technology leader and a strong power, or whether it just means a peaceful guide to the world. And then the fourth option was that you have no idea. But I feel that the fourth option should have been all of the above. Because we are set to become a great power uh, because of because of many fortunate circumstances, and we'll discuss that in the presentation. And we do have the ancient heritage that will support us in this journey. And also, India's nature is to have a peaceful transformation than going with a violent attack on any other country. So it's going to be all of the above. But let me start sharing my screen so you get a better idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so I hope you're all able to see my screen. It's a PowerPoint presentation, and I'll go into a full screen mode. Okay, so before going to the next slide, let me talk about this picture that you see in the title slide. This is our new parliament, right? and it was constructed recently, and it uses some of the ancient Indian themes and principles. And you see also the old Parliament building, which was built by the British using European concepts, and it has not been demolished. It is still there, but we have shifted to the new building, and the old building will be repurposed. So this also, in fact, symbolizes the transition where India becomes one of the global leaders, but in a very peaceful way and not in a destructive way, but still contribute its own unique thought to the transition. Now, why are we talking about the transition? So let me first look at the agenda. There are going to be four sections. First is the collapse of the old world order. So there is a certain world order that was set in place some 70, 80 years ago, and there have been wars here and there, but more or less, the last 70, 80 years have been the most peaceful years on the earth so far because of this world order. But now it is collapsing. There are some temporary reasons, or let's say contemporary reasons for that, but there are also deeper reasons, which we'll see in the second section briefly. And then what is the Indian or Bharatiya solution to this chaos and this collapse? That is the main topic of this session. And lastly, how can we contribute? What is it that we have to do to become part of this transformation? So that's going to be our last section. So quickly on the first section, collapse of the old world order. So as I said, this old world order has been around for the last 70, 80 years, and uh, it was basically the foundations were laid by the European colonialism. India itself was a colony of the British, and similarly, other European countries were ruling various other parts of the world and basically plundering and looting the resources and making them poor. So the great world powers, India and China, which till the 17th century maybe were controlling 30 to 40% of the world's GDP, uh, were made poor because of the colonial practices. India was directly under British rule, and China was also indirectly controlled by the colonial powers and made poor. So that was another stepping stone in formation of the world order as we see it today. And then ultimately, when the colonial powers clashed with each other, we saw what is known as the world wars, World War One, World War Two. So basically, these were wars between the European powers. We should call them European wars. But because they were ruling the rest of the world, the other countries were also pulled into that, and then they became the world wars. But it was basically about preserving the interests of this or that European power. So that was, the major turning point. And then when the Allies won the World War II decisively, they set up this world order that we are part of today. And they did it by establishing different institutions like the United Nations, and within that, the Security Council, and also institutions like the World Bank and IMF, because ultimately it's the money that moves the world, right? Whenever any war starts, that may start because of geopolitical reasons, but behind that is always some or the other problem with money. And the wars stop also because of the problems with money, because one of the sides basically are short of money, or they consume all their resources, and then they have to accept defeat. The World War II was also ended because of such circumstances. Although there was the apparent reason of the bombing of Japan and all, but basically the colonial powers have had emptied their coffers in buying all the weapons from US and other places. US became very rich, and that means it became a world power. US, although it was not very active in the World War, other than towards the end, but it became a big power because now it had most of the gold that was being exchanged by these colonial powers. So around the late 40s, 1940s, and at the beginning of 1950s, the US started to progress as a very rich nation. And even then, gold was the uh, power behind the money. So when I say gold as the power behind the money, when I look at any uh, say currency note, what it says uh, in India, for example, I promise to pay the bearer of this note a sum of so many rupees, right? So if it is a, let's say, 500 rupee note, that note itself is not worth 500 rupees. But because it says that someone is promising to give you 500 rupees, that is just a note of that promise, right? It's a promissory note in other words. And so what exactly is the money? So money is what they are going to give us, that bank. And it was supposed to be gold, right? So you take that 500 rupee to the bank and they give you 500 worth of gold, physical gold. That was the concept behind money till recently. And because US had the most gold, it started printing currency, and dollar became the dominant currency of the world. And then when they printed too much money, the other countries became suspicious that maybe US doesn't have so much gold because the other countries were holding dollars as the reserve currency. And then when they had doubt that if we give these dollars to the US is not going to give us the equivalent amount of gold. So one of the countries, I think it was France or Germany, or mostly France, they asked US to return their gold. They said, we have so much of millions of dollars, take these dollars and give us equivalent gold. And at that time, I think it was pegged at $35 per ounce of gold. And US then understood that if all countries started asking like this, because they know now that we don't have so much gold as much as we have printed the money. They said, okay, we are not going to give any gold. If you want to use dollar, continue using it. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. So that was a shock to the world, and the dollar's price started going down briefly, I think around 1971. But then around 1973, US entered into a pact with the Gulf countries, with the oil producing countries, that they will provide them, US will provide them protection in return of the promise that all petroleum will be sold in dollars, right? And those countries entered into such an arrangement, and uh, then dollar again regained its place, because every country then started to keep dollars, because every country wanted to purchase petroleum. So that is how the petrodollar term came into being. So now dollar was not backed by anything, right? It was just a paper printed by the US uh, federal bank, the central bank of the US. But because it was required for any purchase of oil, and oil was indispensable, so dollar again became the king. And although there was some resistance by Russia, right? So we had two powers, US and USSR. So Russia was at that time USSR, which was uh, a combination of Russia and many other small countries, which then separated eventually. But USSR also collapsed eventually, and then US remained the only power, and it was mainly on the basis of its currencies. Yes, it had, and even now it has bases across the world. Its army has bases across the world, but even army needs money, and US is the source. The US government is the source of money, and it also gave rise to perpetual wars. So, what do I mean by perpetual wars? I mentioned that wars start or stop because of money. When you exhaust all your money, the war will stop. You cannot fight the enemy. But now, because US had uh, an unending source of printing money, uh, we saw what could be called as perpetual war. The war in Afghanistan, the war on terror, it went on for 20 years, I guess. There was no end. And also in other places in the world. But the outcome of all this was that the US debt was rising. So basically, any amount of money you print, the it increases the debt on the US government. The government has to borrow that money in some form or the other. So the bond is the vehicle of that borrowing. So let's say you have many dollars you have earned as a result of trading with the US. Then you would want to keep it in a safe place and also earn some money on that. So there is a great demand for the US bonds, which is nothing but the money that the US government borrows, right? So the US debt currently is 37 trillion. This was unimaginable even 10 years ago, right? And also, in parallel, what happened was US outsourced all its manufacturing to China and services to some extent to India. Now, why this is related to what we have just discussed? Because if you can freely print money and also distribute it to your citizens, then you don't have to work hard, and therefore it is cheaper to manufacture outside in some outside country and just buy it, because for buying you need money, and money you can just print, and that is how. But then China uh, became stronger and stronger because now it has the capacity to manufacture goods for the entire world. So that is also a modern phenomenon linked to all this chain of events. So this is the background of the transformation that we are talking about, and why we are talking about collapse now. So look at this graph. So on the right hand side, you see the U.S. government spending for the year 2025, and the top 10 categories, if you see, 22% social security, and then the next one is net interest, which is 14%, followed by Medicare, health, and national defense. Right. So national defense is at 13%, interest is at 14%. And there was an economic thinker, I do not recollect the name, but he had very famously said, and he had studied the collapse of many uh, previous civilizations and empires. And he said that when the interest payments outgrow your defense expenditure, so when you spend more on interest than you can spend on national defense, then that is the end of your uh, your role as a world power, as a superpower. And that is what has started to happen in case of US. And what is true about US is also true about the Western European nations, because their central banks have a kind of unwritten agreement with each other that they will support each other's currencies. So although we see some ups and downs, but they are linked with each other in different ways. So the collapse of the US and the collapse of the dollar as the reserve currency is going to be problematic for the entire world economy, right? And you can see here what are the on the left hand side, you can see what has triggered all this. So what has triggered all this is, of course, the problem has built up over several years. But what has triggered this recently is the COVID pandemic, because during COVID, the US government printed more than $10 trillion to just distribute to its citizens, so that even if they have lost their job, they are not getting any salary, but still they can buy things. And who were making those things? China and other countries, right? So, but then uh, ultimately you have to pay a price. So far, US was able to export the inflation. So whenever any country prints money, even India prints money, in the sense that when the government expenditure is more than uh, government earning in the form of taxes, that difference you have to you have to basically cover through borrowings, and that borrowing means government has to issue bonds, and ultimately the central bank has to buy those bonds by printing money. So it's a cycle, and when you print more money, there is an inflation because now there is more money chasing fewer goods. That's the classic definition of inflation. So why US could escape that inflationary cycle? Because they were exporting even their inflation to other countries through the reserve currency mechanism. Now, what is happening is the interest rate for the major part of last 30 years was less than 1% in the US, and now it is close to 5%, right? And that is why that this net interest has zoomed to over 14%. Earlier, it was maybe 2%, 3%, and it was quite manageable, but now this is unmanageable, and US cannot change the direction of this change, and therefore there are going to be geopolitical changes. There are going to be change of guard when it comes to world powers, and these are the superficial reasons. Why I say superficial? Uh, because there are deeper reasons which we'll see in the next section. But here are some more things that you could consider which are happening today, even as we speak. So every day we hear about tariffs, and also there are going to be budget cuts. This is all about the US. But US, whatever happens in the US, it has an impact all over the world, and therefore it's very important to understand. So the Western world today has a society that is highly dependent on government doles and imports. So when the government can take care of all your uh, needs. So if you have lost your job, you get money from the government, at least so that you can sustain yourself. And we always say why we can't have that kind of system in India, but US and the Western governments can have that because of the power of their currency. But that has a fallout that the citizens become more and more dependent on the government. Budget cuts and tariffs I spoke about. Then highly interdependent nature of globalized economy means a severe impact on all its constituents, including us. There is going to be some impact. So let's say IT managers. Today, the major IT companies, they have 70-80% of their revenue coming from the US. Uh, but there is going to be some impact on the IT companies in future. On universities, the US universities are heavily funded by the government, and as the government's economics collapses, the universities are also going to see some bad days. In case any of you is planning to go to US or any Western country for higher education, I think you should think twice, unless it's a very specialized course. If it is a generic MBA or anything, better to do it in India. And therefore, we are going to see a lot of reverse migration, right? Because when things start going bad, there are conflicts and civil war like situation. There could be racism related incidents, layoffs, violence. Gun ownership is very high in the US. So we have to be ready for all this to see people coming back to India. It's going to be good for India in the long run, but in the short run, it could be a problem. So we spoke about the high level or apparent reasons. Let me quickly talk about the deeper reasons because I haven't yet started the main section of this presentation. So deeper reasons, it all starts with the secular values. And what I mean by secular values, in the West, there is a clear separation between the religious matters and secular matters or government related matters, which means that you can rely or depend on God for whatever happens to you after you die. Till then, you can depend on the government, right? So this is the simplest definition of secularism. I think some of you can argue, no, it's not that simple, etc. But if I want to simplify, this is the definition of secular values that till you are here on the earth, government is responsible for your welfare. It's called welfare socialism, and that's what most Western governments are doing. But that leads to materialism. You do not see any presence of God in this world. You do some things like going to church or temple or whatever on some days, but that is for a better afterlife. But this life, you rely on the government. You, for example, lose your job, government will do something. If there is a bank collapse, okay, government will bail it out. And also, this gives rise to more and more materialism, because government is an atheist government. They have nothing to do with any religious or moral principles, and materialism leads to a consumerist lifestyle. So if the higher life is where we are going to meet God, then what are we here to do? Then we just consume things, right? And this also leads to dependence on consumption and free money, especially in the reserve currency scenario that we saw. There is a lot of dependence on free money. We see a lot of innovation, for example, happening in American companies, and we say, yeah, the Silicon Valley, there is so much innovation happening, but every innovation needs a lot of capital, right? Think of Google or companies in that area, the IT product companies, they need a lot of infrastructure. Google has thousands of servers running so that your search gives the results in a fraction of the second, right? How could they invest so much? They could invest because the money was available at less than 1% interest. You take out that free money, and then the innovation also slows down significantly. And this is talking about corporates, but even at individual level, there is a dependence on government, dependence on consumption, and dependence on free money. And all this ultimately leads to broken families, violence, mistrust, depression, and loneliness. All these problems we hear about. For example, depression was not known in India 20 years ago, but now more and more celebrities are talking about depression. Looks like there is a pandemic of depression among celebrities. But it's just like we are copying their lifestyle and their ways of living. And now this is what I call the inverted pyramid, because this pyramid actually should be upside down, and we are going to see that also. So before coming to you know our India's position on this, or Bharat's position, there is one paradox of NRIs that we should talk about. So in spite of all the general collapse of societal order in the West, and especially the breaking of the family institution of family, you see the largest number of single mothers or single parents in the US. So this is an indication that the institution of family is broken. But if you look at the Indian community there, they are very well off. They are one of the richest minority community in US and in general in the Western world. And how is this possible? So some people may think that, yeah, Indians are very intelligent, etc. That's not the case. I think what explains this paradox, because here, if we were really intelligent, we wouldn't be left so poor when other countries progressed in 70 years. So in a way, this is a paradox. Of course, there are reasons, but the success of the NRIs can be explained uh, by this one fact, that they have a benefit of the opportunities that the West offers. At the same time, they are carrying the Indian values, the Bharatiya values inside them. So especially the first generation migrants, second generation migrants, third generation, I cannot say, but the first and second generation, they definitely have the Bharatiya value system inside them. They may not be able to express that clearly, but they carry it inside, and that basically helps them become successful in the West. And that leads us to the next section, the Bharatiya solution to the chaos. So the collapse is happening. We are in a good position because we are the most populous nation. Population is an advantage in many respects. We call it the demographic advantage. We have also many technology companies who can lead us in future. All that is good. But then, uh, if we become a world leader or a regional leader, because how I foresee the future is we won't have a single world leader. We'll have regional powers like Russia, China, India, and US. Uh, but if we continue with the Western value system that we are unfortunately uh, adopting in many ways, then again this will lead to another collapse. May not be now, but maybe in 50 years, 70 years. But that is not what we want, and therefore we must see what is eternal in our civilization that we can bring forward and make it as the basis of our rise. And this is the eternal uh, element or principle. So you see here, I have taken four principles coming out of one main principle, which is in the center. And some of you might immediately relate it to religion, but I would say no, this is more of civilizational values. Yes, it is. It has a relation with religion, but then our concept of religion itself is different from the Western concept. So let's not think too much in that direction. Let's focus on the principles. And what is that principle? The principle is that the one source, call it God, call it Paramatma or Ishwar, whatever it is, or Brahma, that one source has become many, right? And everything that you see around yourself, the people, the animals, the trees, the stars and the planets and galaxies, they are all becomings of the one source. So it's not like God sat at one place and created the world and then let it run on its own. No. Uh, he has, now I'm just using the word he and not she or it out of habit, but that source has become this world, and therefore that source is present in every element of this world, in every part of our life. If you absorb this principle, because this principle has been the basis of our civilization, right? There would be differing voices, but they act more as when we say exception proves the rule, right? Or they add to the flavor, but this is the main civilizational ethos, one becoming many. And this gives rise to the other four principles. So I'll spend some more time on this slide before we go to the next, because it's very important to understand this. The first principle we get is the sustainability, that what you see at the top. Because when it says Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, everything is Brahma, then we start respecting nature. We see the divine in nature, in places, in trees, in animals, in rivers. We have sacred places, we have sacred rivers, we have sacred trees. Even animals have importance in our civilization. And that helps us in living in a sustainable way, right? We do not say that, okay, we are here for one life, we'll exploit nature, and once we are in whatever heaven we go, that is where God will take care of ourselves. No, God is here and now. So that is the sustainability principle. It's coming out of our civilizational values. The second principle is unity in diversity. I'm going anti-clockwise. So why the one source many expression principle leads us to unity in diversity? Because although we see a lot of diversity around us, ultimately it's the one who has become many, right? And the line from the Vedas that I remember is Ekam Sat Vipra Babudha Vadanti. This is also used in the religious context, that you can worship God in many forms, etc. But diversity can be in anything. It can be in art, culture, in ways of worship, and also darshanas. So, what is darshana? Darshana is the Indian word for philosophy. So we have philosophies like Vedanta, Yoga, Sankhya, and so on. And sometimes their principles sound like exactly opposite of each other. But then these are darshanas, meaning ways of seeing. So some days ago, I happened to see three photos of the planet Jupiter, Guru or Bruhaspati. And those three photos were very different from each other because of the filters applied uh, on the camera, but all the pictures were of the same planet, right? But they were looking different because of your filters. So same way, in philosophy also, You may express it differently, but it is one truth which can be expressed in different ways. So this is the unity in diversity. And this diversity, as I said, it could be in culture. You can wear different kinds of clothes, but we know that it's the same human being inside who is wearing those clothes. So this is the unity in diversity principle which we can contribute to the world. And from that arises the next principle, that is of acceptance, right? So if we go back to the initial whole question, whether it is about the ancient principles or new technology, it is both, because this ancient principle doesn't stop us from accepting what is new, as long as it aligns with our civilizational values. And the Vedic uh, richa, I would say, or the shloka that comes to my mind is Ano Bhadraha Kratavo Yantu Vishwataha. So let whatever is good come to us from all corners of the world. So this is the Bharatiya attitude since the beginning. Some people say, for example, those who have studied this matter, that the very concept of Kundalini, it has come from China, maybe. But then we have accepted it and assimilated it so much that now it sounds like an Indian concept. And we become richer uh, philosophically through such acceptance. So this principle also comes from the one source, many expressions central principle that I'm showing here. And finally, the principle of balance, right? And for balance, we have the concept of purusharthas, that everyone should basically try to achieve or accomplish himself or herself on these four lines: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So, what is dharma? Dharma, again, is not religion, and I have the next slide explaining that. Dharma is whatever you are expected to do by others, right? And that others could be your family members, it could be your society, people in your town, or people in your company if you are working in a company, or people your countrymen, right? So as an Indian citizen, it is your duty dash dash dash, right? So it's the dharma of an Indian. So dharma is nothing but the expectation of others from you. And if you are doing any job, then doing that job well is your dharma. Artha is earning enough money to lead a decent life yourself and for your family. Kama means fulfilling of desires, but within the dharmic framework without hurting others. And finally, moksha is the individual goal of coming out of the cycle of birth and death. Now, if you look at dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, there is a balance, because dharma and artha are about the collective, uh, but kama and moksha are very personal. And then you are supposed to strike a balance between all these four. So that is the fourth principle, and this is going to help us also to transform into a, Vishwa Guru and share these uh, civilizational values with other countries. So with this, let me go to the next one. So quick one on the concept of dharma. I'm saying again and again, do not uh, confuse dharma with religion. Dharma is the inner law of being, right? Because if everyone is basically coming from the same source, but there are variations, and those variations are for a reason, and with those variations, there is a certain dharma of everyone that they are supposed to work on. So each one of us is born with a swadharma. So swadharma means dharma of each one, which is different from the others. And the concept is that if everyone follows their own dharma, there is no need of enforcing any external laws or regulations. This leads to a duties based society. So the Western model leads to a rights based society, and this one, dharmic model, leads to a duties based society. In fact, in Ramayana, it is mentioned that when Prabhu Sri Ram established dharma, which means he established the rule of justice once again, everyone focused on their own swadharma, and therefore there were little or no crime. And you don't need any police if everyone just does their own work and doesn't indulge in any violation or violence or crime. So that's the concept of following your own dharma. And conceptually, dharma extends to our obligations, not just to the people around us, but also to beings in the higher world. So, why this confusion between dharma and religion happens? Because the dharmic things that we are aware of, they are also about our obligations to the higher beings, to the different gods, to our ancestors, and we usually associate the word dharma with that, and that is how it has got mixed with the concept of religion. But then dharma is a broader concept, and therefore dharmic values are those that help us in sustenance of people and all living beings on earth. It's about how we can all live together peacefully and happily. That is the meaning of dharma. So, with this in mind, how is the pyramid? How can we visualize the pyramid? So earlier we saw the inverted pyramid. Now this is the real pyramid, where at the base you see dharmic values, the cyclic nature of time, rebirth, uh, diversity, acceptance, sustainability, balance, and the four purusharthas. Based on that, you have families, right? So the families, if each individual comes with these values, the family lives in a certain way, and we are going to see that also. And with family traditions and with these values, you have a relationship-based society and festivals. Now, many of you might not have heard what is relationship-based society. So, I would encourage you to search for S. Gurumurthy's lectures on YouTube, where he clearly differentiates between a contract based society, which is mostly the Western world, and a relationship based society, which is the Eastern countries, including Japan, for example. In Japan, uh, if you are an employee of the company, till you are an employee till you retire. It's a relationship. It's not about I work for a month and I get salary. No, you have a relation with the company. Even two companies have a relationship as a supplier and let's say the manufacturer. So once you have a relationship, even if there are uh, some issues about the price of those goods, I won't say issues about quality because Japan is known for good quality. But if there is another supplier which is going to supply at a less price, they will not go for it because they have a relationship with that company. So this is a relationship-based society. And festivals. So festivals are a great occasion for reinforcing those relationships and those traditions. Based on such families, you have sustainable agriculture and industry. And we are going to see that also because once there is a focus on family, you basically encourage entrepreneurship as family. The industries or the manufacturing units are based on how a family works. And lastly, all this leads to individual perfection because this kind of a societal structure helps you pursue all four purusharthas in the right way, and then you become a perfect individual. So this is the dharmic or sustainable or sanatana value pyramid as I see it. I'm just aware of the time, and therefore I will go quickly to the next. So what are the family values? Family value is that there is value in each relationship. We have, let's say, different words for father's brother and mother's brother. One we call kaka or chacha. The other is a mama. I'm talking about languages in the north. And you have joint families which use less resources per capita. Just imagine if this family you see here in this photo or picture, if it is split into, let's say, 5 or 6 different families, each of them will have to buy their own refrigerator, their own washing machine, and furniture. But because they are living together, they live in a more sustainable way by consuming less resources. Marriage is a sacred bond, not a contract. That is our value. It's not a contract based society. Family traditions and rituals to keep people together. Then extended family. As the family grows, some branch has to eventually start a separate household. But then the bonds remain, and that way extended families are formed. And this concept leads to the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam attitude, because ultimately everyone is related to the other in some way. Also, when you live in a family, you have to sometimes personally sacrifice things uh, for the welfare of the family, and that is also something, a value that we can, first of all, if it is lost in our generation, let's bring it back and then share with the world. Grihastha as the support of brahmacharin, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. Now, many technical words here, but basically, this is about the householder or the married person who is living with family. uh, he or the couple and their family, they support the other parts of the society who are dependent on them, namely students, retired persons, and selfless workers. So selfless workers means, in the old days, there used to be sannyasis who did good work for the society without any expectation in return. Today, you have NGOs or charitable organizations, and who is supporting all this? It's the households like this. So the grihastha or the householder is the support of all the others. That is the Indian principle, and therefore families are important. Respect for elders, then importance of home cooked food, food as a form of God, right? So food is not coming from God, but food is a form of God itself. That's the Indian concept. And also, therefore, important to welcome the guests and serve them with food. That's an important tradition. And we provide food not just to guests, but also to stray animals and birds, because ultimately we are all one family. And lastly, and very importantly, we encourage a debt free and savings oriented approach. We postpone our enjoyments, we save money first, we don't go for a debt. Today, it's very fashionable to go for a loan and buy that car or that expensive mobile. Every 2 years, you want to change your mobile phone, but that's not the traditional Indian value. Okay, so that was about family. Let's talk about future of Indian education, Bharatiya education, because we have in the audience mostly students. And here I think Swami Vivekananda's thoughts are very important. And especially this thought where he says education is the manifestation of perfection already present in man. So this again goes back to our core principle of one becoming many. If everyone is coming from that perfect source, then that perfection is there inside somewhere in each one of us. We just have to uncover it. And education is the means of uncovering that. Further, he says, we want the education by which character is formed and strength of mind is increased. And lastly, real education is that which enables one to stand on their own feet. Right? So it's not nowadays, even after becoming engineers, if I tell someone, okay, now do something and earn money, they say, no, unless I get a job, I cannot earn money. So now they are dependent on getting a job. But that's not like standing on your own feet, right? So what should what should be the ideal education be like? So you can see here a few principles outlined. So from job oriented education to skills based education, right? So British gave us the current system because they wanted more and more clerks to handle their empire. But now we want to change it. We should change it. And I'm happy the government is taking steps in that direction, that the education should be skills based, so that once you come out of college, you should be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And early learnings based on Bharatiya values as expressed in Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the Bhagavatam. So this again goes back to this principle of education by which character is formed. And in fact, in ancient India, not too long ago, just before the British came, because British have kept records of these, all every student, regardless of his background, caste or language or anything, the schools were teaching them Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Bhagavatam. And after this, they would go into their own trades to learn the skills-based education. But the common education was based on values and based on these epics and scriptures. Then mother tongue as the medium of instruction wherever possible. So, and I'm talking of out of my own experience. I have studied up to the 10th standard in Marathi, and that makes a huge difference in understanding concepts. And this is something that the government should do, and I think some steps are being taken. Focus on brahmacharya. So brahmacharya here means a disciplined life. The very word disciple, which is used for students, uh, it is related to discipline, right? So another example is shiksha in Hindi means education, and shiksha in Marathi means punishment or discipline. So these two things are very much related to each other. Unless there is a discipline, you won't be able to learn, you won't be able to focus. So that is also going to be a principle in education. And to be able to do that, to facilitate that, we can think of Gurukula based distraction free environment for learning. So there are a few Gurukulas around, but we need more. And lastly, students should be free to choose the subject, because if you want to uncover what is already in that person, you should not burden them with learning 10 different subjects and then he or she must pass in each subject. What if they don't have that aptitude of, let's say, language or science? Why force it on them? So this also should be the principle of education in future. And one more thing, excellence in works is the very basis of karma yoga. So this is about the moksha purushartha. In Gita, it is said that yoga karmasu kaushalam. So education should facilitate individuals to excel in their chosen area of work. So excellence should be our target, not just passing out and getting a job and earning money. So let me go quickly to the next. I'm mindful of the time, so I'll be at a high level. Food, health, and farming. And here, if you follow the Indian civilizational principles, it's all about being natural. So, in matters of farming, there should be a focus on organic and natural farming as against chemical farming. Now, here we have to be careful because Sri Lanka tried to do that in a hurry and then they landed in a crisis. But then, as a long term goal, we should move away from chemical farming. Then diversity through conservation of indigenous grain variety. We had so much diversity in grains, but now everyone is eating only wheat and rice. So I think we should bring back all those traditional food grains and have some variety in food. And this will also reduce the dependence on seed companies. Holistic health, food as medicine. So this is the principle of Ayurveda. Uh, if you go to an Ayurvedic doctor, he's going to ask you, okay, what do you eat every day? Okay, from tomorrow you'll stop eating this kind of food for some days so that you feel better. So food is a very important part of the overall theory of health in India, and that is how it should be. And also home remedies for simple ailments. We should reduce our dependence on big pharma companies. I would say the whole pharma world is a big scam, unfortunately, in many ways. But as much as possible, we should try and rely on traditional medicine. Of course, in emergencies, you have no other option. But as much as possible, we should go back to the holistic health principle. And then talking of Ayurveda, it talks about importance of dinacharya or a daily routine. So your daily routine should be a right balance of diet, sleep, and exercise. So ahara, nidra, vyayam. These are the three principles. Even Gautama Buddha, he has talked about these three should be in balance to have a healthy life and healthy lifestyle. So these should be embedded in your daily routine. You should walk a lot. That is how a human body is programmed to maintain your health. Lastly, industry, economy, and politics. So on each of these, we can have a full lecture, but let's just look at the principles. So our industry should be entrepreneurship based and not job based. Of course, there will be jobs. You cannot completely eliminate them. But after doing job for 4 or 5 years, your aim should be to start a business as much as possible. And I'm not a good example of that, but I'm part of the old world order. I'm just forewarning everyone here that this is the shape of things to come. So prepare yourself. And this is also coming from the Indian values. Ancient India, you would see mostly it was uh, entrepreneurship based, not job based. highly customized goods as against mass-produced goods. So Indians are known for their craft and their aesthetics. We should start manufacturing highly customized goods, which are also beautiful and environment friendly. Then repair, refurbish, and repurpose. So use and throw culture should be given up, and we should try and repair things as much as possible. If anything bad happens to them, refurbish them. And lastly, if it is not possible to use it for their own purpose, then at least repurpose. And a very funny example given is that of clothes that we wear. First we wear them only outside, then when they become worn out, then we start wearing those clothes at home, till finally they are used for cleaning the floor, right? We just do not throw away anything easily, and that's a good thing. That's our civilizational principle, and that also comes from the respect for things, because no thing is just a thing. Everything is infused with the divine, with God. That's the principle behind repair, refurbish, and repurpose. And also frugal innovation, or what is called as jugaad. So instead of going always for expensive tools and equipment, see what you can do with what is available. That also will help us preserve the environment. Then slow and steady organic growth instead of debt and leveraging. So if you see, you will hear so many news about this company buying that other company, taking over, mergers, acquisitions, and a lot of that is happening on the basis of debt, and ultimately the company collapses because of that debt. And every company is the public companies, they are under a lot of pressure to show growth every quarter, and for that they engage into all these kinds of financial engineering. But India's industry in future should be about slow and steady organic growth. And uh, lastly, about the politics of it. So uh, it should be about empowered people with minimum government help. Depending on the government for anything, for your job, for your sustenance, or in anything that is required for living a good life, you should not depend on the government for that as much as possible, because that leads ultimately to a lot of government debt and ultimately collapse of the society, as we have seen in the first section. So what we should avoid people dependent on government doles and subsidies. If there is an option, then opt out of the subsidy. A few years ago, if you remember, everyone was receiving the subsidy on cooking gas, when the prime minister made an appeal that those who can afford, please opt out of that subsidy. And there was a record number of people who voluntarily opted that out. And that is the Indian spirit. We do not want government help. As much as possible, we want to stand on our own 2 feet, because we are perfect. We just need education to bring that perfection out of us. Okay, so that was the third section, and now lastly, very importantly, what is it that we have to do as students, right? So here are a few things. First is, what is it that we should stay away from? So there are powerful forces that are against Bharat's rise, and we should be aware of those forces. And these forces are likely to exploit the fault lines in our society, such as caste and language differences. You see in social media, there are always some wars going on between two groups uh, around the language or caste. These are things that we have to accept, that yes, there are some problems around these things, but that doesn't mean we allow external forces to start a fight among ourselves. And those external forces can use our secular education system, our university campuses, and of course the social media to ignite those battles. And we must be careful to see the game, see their game, and then do the thing which is right for us. Lastly, no government is perfect, but no imperfection justifies a call for anarchy. Yes, the government may make mistakes, but that doesn't mean you start burning things, in protest. There are ways to protest. So anything that you do that the enemies want, you are going to derail India's progress. So let's be careful of that. And what is it that we have to positively do? Try to understand the Bharatiya culture and traditions from a practitioner's perspective, not from a perspective of a Western. There are many books on Indian philosophy written by Westerners, but try to learn the philosophy and culture from someone who has lived that culture and those values. And there are many courses on Indian knowledge systems in many universities. If possible, try to enroll those short courses. Try to see unity in diversity in all fields, especially in the field of ideas. Be open to new ideas. Lead a holistic and balanced life, discipline and enjoyment, not one or the other. And defend Bharatiya thought and culture. I have high expectations from the young generation. To paraphrase Swami Vivekananda, accept what is universally good from other cultures. We are not a closed society. Reject what is unquestionably outdated in our own culture. Right? So we don't want to be stagnant. Oh, whatever was old was good, and we will continue with that. No, we will continue changing ourselves. We will take what is good from the other society without losing our core principles, because those core principles have stood the test of time, and now it is the time to share those principles with the world, and you are going to be the agent of that sharing. And therefore, my appeal to you would be to be a messenger of Bharat in this connected world. Okay, so what are the key takeaways? And I promise you, this is the last slide, and I'll just read through it. Just follow me. So, Bharat today has an unprecedented opportunity to become a superpower it always deserved to be. Bharat cannot just replace or join the existing superpowers by imitating their values and culture, but must borrow from the eternal values that Bharatiya culture represents. These eternal values are all about unity in diversity, acceptance, balance, and sustainability, and about life on earth as an expression of the divine. These Bharatiya values must permeate our family life, art, culture, educational institutes, economy, and politics once again, so that Bharat is seen as a friendly guide, Vishwa Guru, by other nations. Each one of us has a responsibility to understand and consciously participate in the transformation of Bharat. There are forces that would want to thwart Bharat's rise by exploiting fault lines in our society. We must stay away from disputes over language and caste and stay united. The message of unity in diversity is not important just for Bharat, but for the whole world. Let's all be the messengers of this great idea. That was my presentation. I hope everyone liked it. And I once again thank the organizers. If we have time, we can take questions.
Thank you so much, sir. So I think that we have just one question till now, so maybe I can just take that. So this Aditi, she's asking that as an NRI, as NRI is one of the progressive ones, but why we in India are facing the issues of poverty, lack of education. If we are educated, then still we are facing unemployment or not receiving a good amount of salary.
Yes, that's a good question. And the answer is that the problems we have, there are many reasons, but the main reason is the model of growth that we have followed so far. We didn't make changes to the education system, which was geared for job-based life. Uh, and we have to move away from that and encourage people to start their own businesses and trades and factories and manufacturing companies. Uh, so this whole presentation was basically about that we have to move away from what we did in the last 70 years and borrow from our ancient values which sustained us for several millennia and share those values with the world.
Uh, are there any other questions if anybody wants to ask? You can ping on the chat or maybe on the in the Q&A section. So I have a question.
Mhm.
How can students actually be part of any kind of, say, engage in any kind of a policy making or a diplomacy kind of a thing at an early stage of their career? And how can they start contributing now? Are there any, like, your presentation was really great and very understandable, but still like a quick point that you can tell the students?
Yes, so individually you might find yourself helpless. You might see things going in the wrong direction, but then ultimately, everyone's opinion counts. We are living in a democracy, and make full use of social media in a positive sense. Start spreading, the good values, and discourage any, let's say, disagreements that break our unity. And when it comes to policy matters, there are, forums where government invites opinions of people. And fortunately, in the last few years, the government is listening to people's advice through such forums. So, for example, the CAA bill that came, I think, 3 4 years ago, there was 3 months time given for all the citizens to send their opinions, and all those opinions were considered, and some changes were made to the policy. And of course, if you really want to make a big difference, if you are really interested in policy matters, then you can go deeply, study it in all its angles, become an authority in that field. And, as more and more people start listening to you, these thoughts that I'm sharing with you, I have been keeping in my mind for last 10 years. But today I got the opportunity to share. So that opportunity will come. And the world is moving more towards that direction where there will be more participation, and more voices will be heard. It won't be top down, but bottoms up. First, try to increase your circle of influence in your family, your extended family, and in your town. And slowly you'll be able to make a change for the entire nation.
Thank you so much for answering that, sir. There's another question which just came to my mind. I wanted to ask. So there are a lot of local communities also which are working through different thought processes, say the NGOs or something like that. So, what is your idea behind that? That how can students connect with such local community or connect with them and then work for a sort of a global sort of a problem or resolve smaller issues in their community. So what is your idea about that, and what can be an inspiration for a student to do something like that?
Okay. So one principle we have to keep in mind is we cannot help others as a nation till we are in need of help, right? Right now, we have to bring India to a position where we can help others. Yes, Indian government is helping out other governments in calamity, etc. But then, if you truly want to help society at large, first try to do something for your immediate surrounding, right? And there are many ways. But since you mentioned NGOs, be careful. There are NGOs which are funded by foreign forces. They have an agenda which on the surface looks great, but there is always something hidden behind that. I'll just quickly give one example. There are many NGOs which are about feeding stray dogs, right? You might think this is such a noble thing, but then you realize that these NGOs are funded by some external foreign NGOs, and those foreign NGOs in turn are funded by pet food companies. Now, what is the interest of pet food companies in feeding stray dogs in India? By feeding stray dogs, their population will go up, and then you will not be able to step out of your house without having a dog with yourself, right? And that way, the pet ownership will go up, and the business of these pet food companies will also go up. This is unbelievable, but this is true. You can call it a conspiracy or just a plan, but when it comes to NGO, check that it doesn't have foreign connections, and then start doing something for the society.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering. So there's Lavanya. Lavanya, if you can type your question, so maybe I can allow you to talk. Maybe you can ask a question. Um, Lavanya, you can ask your question.
Okay, while she's typing, just one disclaimer. All that I have said so far is based on my personal experience and studies, and it's my personal opinion. Nothing should be linked to my current or past employers, because I have a profile on LinkedIn where you can see, uh, my employment history. And by the way, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any further questions.
Yes. Lavanya, if you are not asking the question, I'm just removing the permission. So I think there's another question. So as the world is modern progress, is there a chance for a job loss as AI is there?
Okay, that's another question so many people ask nowadays. Yes, AI has a good potential to basically replace a few jobs, but it's not going to eliminate all the jobs or even majority of the jobs. Jobs are going to remain. The same kind of fear was voiced when computers came and when, let's say, automatic machines came. So every time when the typewriters were replaced with computer, there was this fear that, oh, now there will be job losses, but nothing was lost. There is so much work ahead of us that there will always be something to do. So, but right now there is AI is a lot of hype. So many big tech corporations, they want to create that hype to justify the layoffs that they are already planning, right? So try to understand it this way. AI may be just the reason given, or the apparent ostensible reason given. The real reasons might be different. There is nothing to be afraid of AI. AI is going to help us become more productive. And Yeah, right now it's in the hype stage. It may take 5, 10 years for AI to really start giving good benefits. But there is nothing to be afraid of. If AI has come, learn something about AI that will keep you employable. But then don't keep a job mindset always. Even if you have to do a job, think in terms of 5, 6 years time frame. After that, try to do something on your own.
Sure. Saurabh, you have something to ask?
No, no, Riddhi.
Okay. So maybe we can end the session. So thank you so much. I think we don't have any other questions ahead. So thank you so much on behalf of the team pod and also Mentor Cloud. I really extend my heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for taking up the session and like bringing up like an interesting wisdom and a different kind of a perspective, like what the world is like going through and what India has also contributed and how your presentation started also with the small instant stories what you shared in the beginning. That was very interesting. Thank you so much for that. And to all the students who have joined today, we hope the session was like really enlightening and some of you were curious that what will be given in out in the session, and I think it has helped you, and you might have also got some sort of an idea. As sir said, he's available on LinkedIn. Maybe you can connect to him, or maybe you can also ask your questions. So I'm just sharing a form with you all. There is a quick feedback form. Maybe you all can just share the feedback here. If you any questions are there, we can always share with Rajiv sir. And thank you so much everyone for joining. And thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Namaste.
I would quickly request everybody, maybe you can just fill the form. If you have questions, you can send your questions here for any of the future sessions, or maybe you can ask Rajiv sir in through connect him to his LinkedIn, or maybe in this link form there is an option where you have the question. You can always ask there. Maybe quickly you can answer this questions, I mean the form, and then maybe we can end the session. Rajiv, so you can leave maybe.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.